Mike, I got to talk about Floyd Landis with you. There's a couple of things here that really bothered me. One, that it took him 4 years that the guilt finally got to him.
It kicked in.
I don't understand. $1 million was raised in this area for his defense, and he knew the whole time. That really bothers me. Let's get a couple of things. Your take on this first, and we'll sort of bounce back and forth.
Lots of things come into play here. What he admitted to is kind of different from what that French lab in 2006 accused him of. And I think that he could probably go into a court of law and win if he wanted to sue that French lab in a civil litigation. But who knows how that would work? What country the trial would take place? I mean, it's all over the place. But the other thing about it is, I thought he was very straightforward about saying, I don't regret doing this. I did it to gain a competitive advantage. I gained that competitive advantage. Without it, I could not have been able to compete at the highest level. That's what I hear people crying. I hear people saying that's all they want to hear from Mark McGwire is exactly pretty much what Floyd Landis said. So a lot of this is perspective, but clearly, as you said, 4 years later, sticking it to these people who contributed to his defense fund, doing it at a point where he apparently is at sea and kind of at a loss in his life overall. It's just an awful, awful situation, and it's hard to imagine redemption for Floyd Landis.
You make an interesting point. I hadn't thought about the two things. One, everybody in that sport is doing it. You said that. I'm actually sort of glad to hear that he did come out and say that they're all doing it. And it's different than baseball. Baseball is a stat-driven sport. I don't think of that with cycling. So I thought that was interesting. One couple points I have. One, he just goes about this sort of backwards. Jose Canseco wrote a tell-all book and threw people under a bus and made lots of money on it. Floyd writes a book and does it ahead of time on his defense. Yeah. Slightly different defense. You're saying it's about the lab as opposed to this. He made his money out. He'll make no more money on that book. That book just lost most of its credibility because of what he admitted here.
In retrospect, he could have been the Jose Canseco of cycling and maybe profited from it, and be seen as a truth teller. In a way that, Canseco is almost admired, I think, a little bit now. The way that whole situation is played out. So much of this, people think this is so cut and dry. You cheated or you didn't. You're garbage or you're not, and it's not like that. There's all kinds of things that go into it, and perceptions are not always reality.
And I'll tell you what, he's human. He made a mistake, and I feel for him in that regard. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm a little bit frustrated. He comes back to this area. He gets money. We've gone and defended the guy for years, and this comes out. I also didn't like, I know you're going to have a column, and I think maybe you're going to mention this in your column as well this Sunday. There was a picture in the paper earlier this week that had the scripture verse from John and had about ye who's without sin, throw the first stone, okay? Hey, I'm a Christian. I was sort of offended that that's the take that the parents have down there.
That is an extreme misappropriation of the Bible and of that concept of Christianity, in my view. I'm kind of not surprised, but I think it's noteworthy that you and I both saw that, and it jumped out at both of us in kind of the same way. I totally agree with you about that.
I'd rather the parents say, hey, we're embarrassed our son took this long to do it. It's not how we raised him. Take that approach. You mentioned Jose Canseco. I think Lance Armstrong is becoming the Barry Bonds of this sport. He keeps saying, hey, show me the evidence. Come get me if you got it. You don't have it. All of his teammates, Floyd being one of them, have been accused, or most of them have been accused and or have been admitted to taking steroids, yet Lance seems to find a way to be above it.
Well, two things. Number one, you apparently you can mask and sneak your way past these tests. I mean, if you're on the cutting edge of technology, and you would think Lance Armstrong is capable of paying for the cutting edge of technology. Yeah. And number two, it is apparently true, or at least was true 4 or 5 years ago, that you could not win. You could not compete at the highest level in this sport if you weren't cheating. I mean, we're talking about things we're talking about substances that increase your aerobic capacity by a significant percent, and this is pure endurance. This is not baseball, basketball, wide range of skill. This is pure endurance. So apparently, the thing that's against Lance Armstrong is apparently you had to cheat to be as good as he was.
How much did Floyd increase his endurance the day he climbed that hill to get past everybody?
Man, that was super.
He was like going speed that day. It's like when this person, the housekeeper, takes too much and is cleaning the house crazy. He must have quadrupled the dosage.
All right. Well, it's a sordid tale. I guess that's all we can say for sure.
There's your headline for Sunday.